Coming up on Regarding Men, Stingy Men, the death of Captain Save-A-Ho.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Regarding Men, where red pill isolation comes to die and where we hold men in high regard. I'm Janice Fiamengo. I'm the author of the Fiamengo File, and I'm joined, there's red pill isolation coming to die there, a fiery death. I'm Janice Fiamengo, as I say, and I'm joined by my two good friends in the men's movement, Paul Elam of paulelam.com. and Tom Golden of Men Are Good.
Men are good.
And we're focusing today on men of Nigeria. And these men have provided us with a very interesting opportunity for discussion of something called the Stingy Men Association. And this is a very fascinating phenomenon. I'm sure there are many cultural implications to it that we don't even know, but we're certainly intrigued by it. And we're going to start with a short video clip that showcases this association and the desire of certain men to enter it and what is necessary to enter this association. And it apparently has received over 750,000 views. So we're talking about a phenomenon that is got a lot of legs, let's put it that way. So let's roll it and take a look at what the Stingy Men Association is all about, and then we'll talk about it after.
Presido, what you are doing is not good. At least you respect the fact that I'm a father figure. I've been standing here begging you, please, let me be a part of this association.
We, the Stingy Men Association, we have already discussed your matter before you came. That people like you cannot be in this our association. You that they touch you like this, 2 seconds, everywhere don't bust.
No. Stop that. You're embarrassing me.
Let's stop first. Look at your hands. Can you do your hand like this? Can you walk around permanently like this? I can't go. Just hold it tight like this.
Presido, all the men in Nigeria are now in this association.
Of course, I have the ID cards here. Hold on, man, because I'm the one that issued the ID card. Look at Aliko Dangote. Hey, look at Otedola is here.
Otedola?
Look at Adeleke.
Adeleke?
He's here. Look at Jeff Bezos. We have to minimize his money so he can get back to #1. Men are here. We are not looking for new people.
Do you know that if I'm not in this group, they have WhatsApp group, they will say that I freaking that.
Yes! Fem. Riri.
Freaking my account.
Look at.
President, please, sir.
Only level 1. Riri, level 2.
Can't shame me?
Riri, apply pressure.
I said freaking my account.
What is our motto? What is our motto?
I will see what I can do.
See, just pass the test now. Okay, please, I beg, get him an ID card.
Thank you.
Do not open it.
Thank you.
Congratulations, congrats.
All right.
Wonderful. I'll see what I can do. This is the motto of the Stingy Men Association, which exists to encourage and, in fact, mandate that men stop being financial resources for girlfriends who expect that simply by a touch of their hand, as we saw in that initiation scene, they can exact any amount of money from the willing men. So this is a real thing. There's even a fairly serious BBC article about it, interestingly enough, written by a woman and obviously addressed primarily to other women. It actually presents this association, well, not entirely, but at least partially as a women's issue. We could talk about that a little bit more later. But anyway, it tells us a bit of the history of the organization. According to this account, it started in Zambia, started with some or fight between a man and his wife over his giving her some amount of money to do her hair. And then it has spread to Nigeria, where it seems that, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions of men have joined. There's an app that you can download that enables you to make a membership card. And as I said, the motto is, I'll see what I can do. And yes, it turns out that, hey, we've got some members here. So that's what the membership cards look like. And so the overall motto is, let me see what I can do. Obviously, that's the temporizing of the man who's being asked for money of some sort. The goal of the organization is that men are not to spend lavishly on girlfriends or wives, according to the decree of these women. They're not to go on lavish dates and pay for them. They're not to provide all sorts of gifts and send money for transportation or etc. And so it's hugely popular. There are expressions that the men are to use, such as, I wish you'd asked me sooner. I'm just out of money now, or, I may be getting some money next week, all these kinds of things.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll see what I can do.
See what I can do. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And so obviously this is indicates the power of social media to spread ideas, in this case in a pretty lighthearted way, but addressing what even the BBC author admits is a serious social issue, which is the pressure that men obviously feel in Nigeria as well as elsewhere to pay out lavishly on dates, and the resentment that these men feel about being used as financial resources. And these men have found a creative and pretty engaging way to raise awareness about that and to fight back.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about it.
I just noticed for the first time, it's like the third time I've watched that video, that one of the images on the cards that he was laying on the pool table was Jeff Bezos.
I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
Who just got through with a $40 billion divorce settlement. Maybe that, I don't know if that'll wise the guy up or not, but I thought it was pretty interesting they included him in that.
That is interesting. I did not see that. But yeah, I agree, Janice. This is a serious issue, and yet it's very difficult to talk about, because I think the general trend is men should pay.
Oh,
this is the gynocentric flood that just sort of keeps pushing men to pay. And you saw it in that guy he's struggling. This woman is wanting something from him, and he's struggling, and you can see it. And I've been there. I'm sure most men have been there. And being able to say, let me see what I can do. I mean, it's just, it gives a little distance, so it's a funny video, but it's really addressing an important issue that's hard to talk about otherwise. So
one of the
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of the journalists, I don't know why they didn't have the journalist that's interviewed in the BBC article actually write the article. There's a male journalist that is consulted for the article, and he talks about a time, and he is a Nigerian journalist. He talks about a time he went out on a date with a woman. He had budgeted for the date. Her friend came along on the date. They consumed so much at the meal that at the end he had to leave his watch in order to pay for it, and they took off. And, he was left holding the bill and in actual serious financial jeopardy as a result of their greed and total lack of ethics.
Yep.
So, yeah, it is a serious issue. And I would have loved to have seen a serious treatment of it by that particular journalist. The woman who, writes about it partly recognizes that there's something real here, but also makes it clear that for her, like for every other issue, it's really a women's issue. And she starts off the article by saying, hey, look out, women. The men of Nigeria are revolting. they're no
Yes,
longer
they're
willing
starting to care about themselves, the bastards.
Yeah, the bastards.
Exactly.
You know, they're not willing to pay for lavish dates, provide expensive gifts, etc. Or at least, you know, that's what they say. That's according to the Stingy Men's Association. And the implication is that we women are going to find ways to get around it. And in fact, you know, there are a number of women quoted saying that, oh, when I put on my short mini dress, my man is going to give up his membership in the Stingy Men's Association. And it also goes into a lot of feminist inspired nonsense about how, you know, this is because men are forcing women into traditional roles. And, you know, there are plenty of strong, independent women in Nigeria who make their own money and who support their men. Well, if that's the case, then, you know, what's wrong with such a thing? Why would there be any pushback against this at all? So the article is itself, I think, an interesting cultural document showing the tension within feminist ideology of proclaiming women as strong and independent, but also very clearly showing women's anger when they see men taking that idea seriously. Yes. And their resentment at being held to their own standards. So that's fascinating too, I think.
Yes.
You know, I recall back in 2014 when we did the first international conference on men's issues that I was interviewed by Vice magazine. And, you know, it was one gotcha or attempt at a gotcha after another, of course. That's what you expect from them. But the main one that they wanted to harp on was about an article I wrote about why you shouldn't give your girlfriend money. That was the big, well, what, you know, and there was a guy interviewing me and he was just totally perplexed. Why on earth would this even be a thing? And it's as though the idea of men watching their own finances and taking care of themselves, and I identify with this. I can tell you, I couldn't possibly remember from my 20s and 30s how many times, or later, how many times I spent money I could not afford to spend taking care of or trying to impress women. It's just sort of a natural part of men's lives, and especially when they're young. You know, I've seen young men scramble for money, take extra jobs, do anything because they can't keep a girl's interest without this extra money. And this is a very serious problem when you get into what happens to guys who can't generate that income, or that something happens and they lose a job. Their sense of identity is destroyed often. That's why the suicide rate for men jumps so high due to unemployment. That's one of the big killers for men is lack of financial solvency. And you look at a place like Nigeria, which has, by the way, a custom called lobola, which it goes way back. Families are expected, when men marry, they have to provide cattle or some other real property to the wife's family, to the bride's family, in order to even have a wife. And some of the men that they've interviewed about this have said, look, I'm trying to save up to get a bride. But the girl that I'm seeing wants all my money for her hair and for really extraneous stuff. And they're being challenged. And they do this with humor. There's a lot of humor involved in this, but I guarantee you there's a very, very serious social issue underneath that for men. And I'm like, it's about time. Men do need to start looking at, hey, look, we live in an equal society. And if you don't want to be viewed as as a sex object, then quit putting your body up for sale by expecting my money. I mean, I never understood how many women are just so indignant about, oh, you just view me for my body. Well, you sell your body all the time. You won't share your body with a man who's not, you know, laying lavish gifts on you and spending lots of money on you. So you've effectively made yourself a prostitute, and now you're complaining about it. And this, I believe, is a partial antidote to the problem.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's got people thinking about it a bit. You know, I read a couple of articles, and there were some interesting things that were said in these articles by some of the guys in these groups. One was, like our slogan says, my money, my rules. We help you understand the mere fact that your life matters and that it's okay for you to spend on yourself. An interesting way to look at it. And another one says, any daughter of Eve that asks for money shall be treated as an illegal immigrant and be labeled not wife material.
Hey guys, I hope every guy in our audience is hearing that last bit. Not material for a wife, not material for a long-term relationship. If you meet a woman and she's trying to get money out of you, walk away.
Yeah, really.
Just walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This is not a Nigerian issue by any means.
No.
Like they're,
global.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I have a good friend who told me about his younger days. He was a fairly well-known musician. As a result of his profile as a musician, there were a number of women who were interested in him, attractive, successful guy with that kind of musician's mystique. But he said he made himself sick. He nearly killed himself, always trying to, be able to give, working hours that were not healthy, because he always felt he had to keep giving more and more in order to keep the woman's interest and admiration. And,
yes.
He ran himself into the ground.
Yes. And of course, it's all connected to status.
Yeah.
That as men, we got this testosterone stuff that says strive for status. And a man with high status is going to be able to afford anything, and so that's the image that men want to portray, as being able to afford anything for someone they want to attract. And man, that's where you go down in flames,
Yeah. And you Tom, were saying that you had found an article. It's, I think, maybe 2 years old or something like that, shaming men for being stingy. So this is still a dominant cultural issue in our supposedly gender equal society. You never would see an article shaming women for being stingy. I mean, it's not even imaginable, but yet it's still perfectly acceptable for mostly women to point the finger at men who aren't willing to spend on them.
Yes.
I mean, it's bizarre. And I did a Google search on, if you ask the question, who should pay on the first date or indeed on subsequent dates, this is still a conversation with a lot of legs, and a lot of women still agree that men should pay. That a man who isn't willing to pay is not going to get a second date. And I found one article that ridiculously tries to claim that it's men's fault because a higher percentage of men in a particular survey were the ones that said they thought men should pay, and admitted that they always did, and that they offered to, etc. And so the gist of the article was that this is an old-fashioned notion that men themselves are pushing forward. It's not the women's fault, but a large number, in most cases, a majority or close to a majority of women thought the man should pay as well. And the men, said it themselves. I doubt I'll get another date unless I pay.
Right.
In other surveys, a very high, they know. So this isn't men forcing it. It's men recognizing that this is the cultural mindset that most people participate in. And there was another survey where it found that 78% of both men and women assumed that men will pick up the bill. The women said it made them feel that they're taken care of, and looked after, etc. So all of the stuff about gender equality just falls away when it comes to the question of men looking after women. That's still an expectation, and it's a killer for a lot of men. And
it's a contradiction. The whole thing between being able to, want people to pay for you and being, strong and able. Wait a minute, something's got to give there. And no one calls it out.
Nobody calls it out.
And spent some time years ago calling this stuff out. He was on Fox News quite a few times.
Who's that, Paul?
Mark Rudolph.
Right.
He wrote a book called Under the Clitoral Hood. A funny look at men's and women's relationship. But he was on Fox News several times making this argument. And what I saw over and over again was they would bring a feminist on to argue with him. And guess what they used? The wage gap.
The wage gap, the non-existent. Yeah,
the non-existent. Men make more money, so they should have to pay. it's like, look, how many excuses do you need to act like a hoe? It is absolutely insane. But apparently we're never going to run out of them. And as we see by that headline that Tom's got up there now, shame is the ultimate weapon of control for men. This is why you see everything they want to control men with, they do it with shame. They don't do it with reason or logic or appeals to compassion or anything of the sort. The thing you do with men is you shame them, and guess what? They'll obey in most cases. Most guys are like the odd man out from that video that you played. Most men, I mean, that's a fairly accurate representation. So while I certainly have sympathy for men who feel pressured to do this and who are controlled by shame, ultimately they have to make a choice.
Yes.
And it's real important. I started out with this back 25 years ago when I first really started ingesting red pills, and I made it a habit. I had a line in relationships. If I had $10 million in the bank, I wouldn't finance a relationship. I felt like I needed to be that blunt because all the women I encountered wanted somebody to pay their way. They weren't interested in me if I wasn't getting my wallet out, taking care. That was a blunt fact of life. They had no interest in me unless I was providing. And I finally met one who said, yes, of course, we should all carry our weight, and like, bingo. So I stayed with her for 20 years.
Yes, quite agree. The other thing,
certainly having the support of other men, like men talking about this issue and supporting one another is a huge thing.
Yes. And it brings it to the surface. It brings it up where you can talk about it, and guys joke about it. And as soon as it becomes a joke, it becomes much easier for guys to handle.
That's true. Absolutely.
So much easier. And I think I have a suspicion that the same guys that started these groups, which I think is partly tongue-in-cheek, also started a women's stingy group.
You think so?
Yeah, let's see.
I don't think so. I think it's the women.
You think the women did it?
I'm leaning with Janice on that one, Tom.
There's her identity card. Do not open, the Stingy Women Association. But you've got to look really at their logo here. Well, we've got to turn that off first. There it is. Stingy Ladies Association of Nigeria. My period just started.
It's hard to say. I mean, I'd love to have a sort of Nigerian, on the ground who could tell us a little bit more about what's going on here and how tongue-in-cheek it all is and whether there's a parodic element. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past a group of ladies to get together and create this kind of response. Okay, you guys are gonna hold on to what you've got. We're gonna hold on to what we have. It's kind of shocking because it's obviously Janice,
look at this image they have for their logo.
Yeah, well, the implied admission is that we trade sex for money.
Hello,
and
do not open. Do not open. And it's almost
like that's the point. This is what this is saying. It's what that headline was saying. It's what the stuff about the shaming of stingy men. All of this is a indirect way to say women are for sale. Mm-hmm. And if that's, I mean, I can't imagine life as a woman. I'm a guy, but I would like to think that if I were a woman, that sort of mentality about who I was wouldn't be something that I embraced.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's very strange, isn't it? Because there's a bit in the BBC article too that, I mean, that whole second half of that article is really interesting because it has a feminist slant. It turns this into a feminist issue of men in various types of ways, not exactly, oppressing women in a way, but forcing women into stereotypical roles, I think, was the idea. But one of the points that was made, what seemed really bizarre, was that women feel that men who take them out on dates want sex. Okay, I think, probably, everybody knows that sexual intimacy is one of the reasons that men, ask women out on dates. So, okay, if some women feel pressured into becoming sexual with a man before they feel ready to do so because they don't know the guy very well or they don't trust him very well, there's lots of, I mean, that's a real issue and certainly worth talking about with the guy or with other people in general. But in the BBC article, what it said was that therefore women ask for a lot of money. They expect all these gifts so that they don't feel they're being used. But that doesn't make any sense.
So they use him to prove
they
it.
use, yeah, if they're both being used, that's somehow then not so hurtful or not so crass. It's weird. But anyway, so I don't know. This could be the Women's Association might be a parody, as you say, Tom, but it could well be Nigerian women, as women in North America would obviously do as well, saying, look, you want this, you better be willing to pay for it or you're going to suffer.
It's a very direct way to say it. There's no question about that. Do not open.
I want to make this point before we're concluded with this. I just want to say a quick note to the ladies. If you're sick and tired of guys who think that you owe them sex because they bought you dinner, find your fucking purse. It will help the situation immensely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Just imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
If you bought your own dinner.
And have an honest conversation about what you want in a relationship, and have it over a dinner in which you share in the payment. I mean, what a wonderful idea! And say that you'd like to go out for another one in which you also share.
It's a wonderful idea that will never happen.
It certainly looks like not. I mean, we've looked at articles about women, dating down, and how very, very conscious women are of the financial status of the men that they date or indeed marry, and how very resentful many women are at having to pull their weight economically. And certainly how resentful they are at the thought of having to marry somebody who doesn't make more than them. I mean, that it seems to be so deeply entrenched. I don't know. I mean, there are women who don't feel that way. I don't, and I know there are many other women who don't. But the majority of women, it certainly seems to be a deeply entrenched part of female psychology, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a big issue that deserves to be talked about, and laughing about it, as you both say, it's one of the good ways of taking away the taboo and taking away the shame.
Tom, your microphone has quit working.
Well, it quit because Barney found the postman outside, I think.
You are muting Barney? How dare you mute Barney?
You wouldn't have been able to hear anything. Bless his heart.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's fascinating. I would love to say that if there are any Nigerian men or women who've been involved in this campaign who could write in and tell us more about it, I am really all ears. I'd love to know more about it.
We would love to hear from you. You can contact us through Regarding Men.
And what I was trying to say was that it's a masculine strength to use humor for difficult subjects, and we have done that very, very well for years. And I think we can do more of that.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Those guys in Nigeria are doing a brilliant
job. It's just great, man. It's just great.
So
they're leading. They're leading.
Yeah.
So thank you, men in Nigeria and Zambia, and it's all over Africa, apparently. I mean, it's multiple countries that are involved in this now. It's not just Nigeria and Zambia.
We usually export things from the United States to other countries. We need some reverse exporting here.
We're importing.
Matter of fact, I did leave a request on their Facebook page to start an American chapter.
Fantastic.
Oh, is that right?
I would like to represent the state of Virginia. Thank you very much.
There you go.
I hope it happens. Yeah.
I already have my card.
Yeah. I love those cards. Can you put them up again, Tom?
Yeah, I could try. Let's see if we can put them up here.
Those deserve to be contemplated with.
Okay, we're gonna have to switch screens in order to put those up, but we can do that. We'll just go to the video. And let me stop this. Maybe we won't go to the video.
At least you respect the fact that I'm a father.
Sorry about
If
that.
it's too much hassle, don't. But I just loved them so much. I'd love to end with those 2 cards up on the screen.
Keep talking. Let's see.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
I'll see
I wish you'd
what
asked
I
me
can
sooner.
do.
Like that one.
No.
And I can even try this one. My period just started.
Unfortunately, no can do.
Okay, no biggie, no biggie.
It's okay. Yeah, it's all right, Tom. Anyway, yeah. I encourage everyone to go back and find the moment when those 2 cards went up on the screen and just contemplate them with joy. They're a thing to behold.
But in the meantime, somebody needs to say that men
are
good. Indeed, we got it right again. This is getting too consistent.
Got it right. That's we'll shoot for 3.
Yeah. Geez, twice in a row. What can you say? So we finished?
And next time I get to say where red pill wisdom comes to die.
Yeah, my apologies, sports fans. That's not what I meant. You know what I meant. So give it up.
Exactly.
All right. Are we finished?
Okay. Have a great week.
Oh, God. Let's see if it's the right button. Oh.